What's up, Broncos Country? You breathing? Then hold on to your seat, because the news that just dropped is going to make you scream. Sean Payton opened up, spoke the truth, and put his finger on the wound about one of the hottest topics this season, the total failure of Evan Engram in Denver. That's right, you read that correctly. The tight end who arrived with fanfare, with a fat 2-year contract and giant expectations, is coming up empty, missing, invisible in the Broncos offense. And the coach? He just let loose about this explosive situation. If you're part of the family, if you bleed orange and blue, then stick with me, because this breakdown is going to dissect everything about what's going on with Engram, what Payton said, what it means for the team, and most importantly, what's coming next. Comment down below if you're outraged with Engram's performance, or if you think the guy deserves more chances. Let's debate, because today the temperature is boiling. Let's start from the beginning. Broncos Country. Back in the offseason, Denver's front office made a move that got a lot of people excited. They brought in Evan Engram, a veteran tight end with credentials, with experience, a guy who's already played at a high level and who theoretically would be the missing piece to give Sean Payton's offense that upgrade. The contract? 2 years, juicy money, and everyone expecting the guy to come in and tear it up. But the reality? Completely different from what we imagined. 4 weeks of the season have already passed, Broncos Country, and what has Engram delivered so far? 8 receptions. That's right, just 8 balls caught. And you know how many yards? 62. 62 yards in 4 weeks, people. For a tight end who's making $11.5 million a year, this isn't just disappointing. It's unacceptable. His projection for the entire season, if he keeps this pace, only 34 receptions and 264 yards, numbers that any backup tight end can easily put up. And before you tell me that injuries got in the way, I already know. Engram missed Week 3 because of a back injury, and that certainly skews the numbers a bit. But even taking that into account, Broncos Country, the guy's performance is way below expectations. He suffered an ankle injury in Week 1, played hobbled in Week 2, and had to sit out Week 3. In other words, since arriving in Denver, the guy hasn't been able to get into a rhythm, couldn't get consistency, couldn't show what everyone expected from him. But the big question everyone wants to know is, what does Sean Payton think about all this? And that's exactly what the coach talked about. And look, his statements were revealing. Payton was direct, no beating around the bush, no sugarcoating. He said that a lot depends on the game script, that there are moments when they definitely try to involve Engram, but that the team doesn't come out of a game thinking about who had more touches or fewer touches. And here comes the phrase that sums up everything. Broncos Country. We're not playing fantasy football. We're trying to win. And look, you can understand Payton's point, right? The guy is paid to win games, not to distribute pretty statistics for players to puff their chests. But at the same time, Broncos Country, we need to be realistic here. Engram isn't a rookie just drafted trying to find his way in the league. The guy is in his 9th season in the NFL, has already played for 3 different teams, knows the scheme, knows how things work. He should be delivering much more than he's delivering now. Let me ask you something, Broncos Country. Do you think the problem is just the injuries? Or is there more involved in this equation? Comment below with your opinion, because I want to know what you think about this. Is it the scheme's fault? Is Bo Nix not able to find Engram on routes? Or is the tight end himself not able to adapt to Payton's system? Let's analyze the possible reasons for this statistical tragedy, because that's what's happening. First point, the injuries. The ankle injury in Week 1 was a major blow. Engram tried to play hurt in Week 2 and clearly wasn't 100%. Then came the back injury that took him out of Week 3. So yes, injuries definitely limited his impact. But is that all, Broncos Country? Second point, and this one is crucial, Bo Nix's inconsistent performance. Look, I love the kid. I think he has giant potential. But let's be honest here, Nix is still adapting, still learning, still making rookie mistakes. And that definitely affects Engram's production. If the quarterback isn't making the right reads, if he's not distributing the ball efficiently, the receivers suffer. It's simple math, but there was a positive sign in Week 4, Broncos Country, and I need to highlight this. Against the Cincinnati Bengals, Engram received 7 targets, the highest number of his season so far. He managed to catch 4 of those balls for 29 yards. Not spectacular numbers, but they show that Payton tried to get the guy involved in the game, tried to make things happen for him. And that's important because it demonstrates that the coach hasn't given up on the tight end, even with all the accumulated frustration. And speaking of Payton, the guy gave a master class in experience when he compared Engram's situation to what he experienced during his New Orleans Saints years. He recalled important games against tough teams where players like Jimmy Graham and Michael Thomas didn't get many touches, and it wasn't intentional. It was simply how the game unfolded. Opponents put their best cornerback on Courtland Sutton, ran double coverage, and the script changed completely. And this brings us to a fundamental point, Broncos Country. When Sutton receives double coverage, when teams put a safety over the top of him, who should be destroying those coverages? Engram. The guy has a physical body, has a size advantage against linebackers and safeties, should be being used in the middle of the field as a lethal weapon. But what do we see in practice? Only shallow routes, only short crossers, only dump-offs. Zero creativity, zero utilization of the player's real potential. Look, I understand that Payton wants to put the ball in Engram's hands with space for him to run, use his speed and athleticism to gain yards after catch. Makes sense, it's a valid strategy. But that can't be the only way to use the guy, Broncos Country. Where are the deep routes? Where's Engram being used in the seams of the defense as a giant mismatch? Where are the plays specifically designed to exploit his physical qualities? And here comes an interesting twist in the analysis. Broncos Country. There's a positive side to all this invisibility from Engram. Opponents might be sleeping on him. The guy has been so irrelevant in the first few weeks that it's possible teams aren't preparing specific defensive schemes to neutralize him. And that could be a giant opportunity. Next Sunday, Denver faces the Philadelphia Eagles on the East Coast, and this could be the perfect game for Sean Payton to surprise everyone. If the Broncos can establish the running game, if they can make the Eagles respect the ground game, then play action becomes a deadly weapon. And guess who could be the biggest beneficiary of that? Engram. Tight end routes off play action are lethal, and if the Eagles aren't expecting it, Engram could finally explode. But let's be realistic here, Broncos Country, because I'm not going to stick to just the pretty talk. Payton can say all he wants, that he's not playing fantasy football, that only winning matters, but the guy is paying $11.5 million a year for Engram. That's not pocket change. It's not spare money. It's an absurd amount. And at some point, production needs to be proportional to salary. You can't keep paying that amount for a guy who's giving zero return. The pressure is building, Broncos Country, and everyone knows it. The fans are demanding, the media is questioning, and inside that locker room, you can be sure players are noticing too. When you sign a guy for that amount, when you make that investment, expectations are enormous, and so far, Engram hasn't delivered even half of what they expected from him. Look at Courtland Sutton's situation, for example. The guy in the Broncos offense gets double-teamed practically every game and still manages to produce. In Week 3 against the Indianapolis Colts, Sutton was completely shut down, caught just one ball for 6 yards. And you know what should have happened in that game? Engram should have exploded. Should have been Plan B, Plan C, the guy who punishes defenses that focus too much on Sutton. But that's not what happened. And so I ask you, Broncos Country, is the problem in the route design? Is Payton not able to create favorable situations for Engram? Because so far, all we've seen are surface routes, nothing deep, nothing that really exploits the player's complete skill set. And that's way too frustrating. Think with me, Broncos Country. You have a tight end who's 6'5", almost 240 pounds, who runs well, who has good hands, and you use him only for 3-yard routes? That doesn't make sense. The guy should be attacking the middle of the field, should be being used in third down situations, should be the reliable target for Bo Nix when the pressure's on. But that's not what's happening. And there's another factor that can't be ignored, the chemistry between quarterback and receiver. Bo Nix is a rookie, having to build timing and rapport with all the team's receivers. And that takes time, Broncos Country. It doesn't happen overnight. Maybe a significant part of Engram's problem is simply that he and Nix haven't yet Develop that telepathic connection that great quarterback tight end duos have in the NFL. Look at the great tight ends in the league. Broncos Country. Guys like Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle. They're fundamental in their team's offenses. They're priority targets, get tons of balls, make decisive plays. And it's not just individual talent, it's the system that exploits them. It's the quarterback who trusts them. It's the chemistry that's been built over time. Denver needs to get to that level with Engram, or else the investment was a colossal error. And between us, Broncos Country, I have to admit something. It's starting to give that bad signing feeling, you know? That feeling that maybe the front office got it wrong, bet too high on a player who no longer had the same level. Engram is 30 years old, has already been through the Giants and Jaguars, and maybe his best years are already behind him. But hold on, it's still early to call it. There's still a lot of games ahead. The Broncos' upcoming schedule is challenging. Broncos Country. After the Eagles, more tough games come, more hard situations where the team will need all players contributing. And Engram is going to need to wake up, is going to need to show up, is going to need to justify that fat paycheck he receives every month, because otherwise the pressure will become unbearable. And look how interesting Broncos Country. While Engram struggles, other offensive players are standing out. Sutton continues being a beast, the running backs are producing, and even less hyped receivers are making important plays. This puts extra pressure on Engram because it becomes clear that it's not the entire offense that's stuck. It's him specifically who's not able to produce. There's a theory I want to share with you, Broncos Country, and I want your opinion on this. Could it be that Sean Payton is purposely saving Engram for specific situations? Could he be keeping the guy on ice in the first few weeks to surprise opponents later in the season? Sounds like conspiracy theory, I know, but Payton is one of the shrewdest coaches in the NFL. He could very well be playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. But honestly, Broncos Country, I think it's more like incompetence than genius strategy. When you invest heavily in a player, you want immediate production. You don't keep the guy stored to use only in December. That doesn't make sense, especially when the team is fighting to build offensive identity, when Bo Nix is trying to gain confidence, when every game matters for playoff seeding. And speaking of playoffs, Broncos Country, let's be realistic. If Denver wants to get there, if they want to really compete for a spot, they're going to need Engram to show up. They'll need him to be that lethal third or fourth option in the offense, that guy who punishes defenses that focus too much on Sutton. Without that, the team's ceiling is limited, and the season could fall apart quickly. Do you agree with that, Broncos Country? Or do you think the team can succeed even without significant production from Engram? Leave your opinion down below because I'm curious to know what the family thinks. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now and hit that bell because every day there's hot content about the Broncos here. Going back to Sean Payton, the guy has enough experience to know when a player is delivering and when he's not. He worked with elite tight ends in New Orleans, knows exactly what to expect from this position. And his statements about Engram, despite being diplomatic, carry a clear subtext. The guy needs to produce more, needs to show up more, needs to justify the confidence the team placed in him. And one thing that catches my attention, Broncos Country, is that Payton didn't put all the blame on injuries. He could easily have done that, could have given Engram a free pass saying, the guy is hurt, and that's why he's not producing. But that's not what he did. He said the game script determines who gets more balls, that they don't keep counting touches, that the important thing is to win. That to me sounds like a direct message to the tight end. Now let's talk cold hard numbers, Broncos Country, because math doesn't lie. If Engram maintains his current pace, he'll finish the season with pathetic numbers compared to his salary. We're talking about one of the highest paid tight ends in the league delivering backup production. This is unsustainable. Either he improves drastically in the coming weeks, or he officially becomes one of the worst contracts on the team, and there's a detail that can't be overlooked. Broncos Country, tight end is a crucial position in Sean Payton's system. The guy has always used this position intelligently, has always had productive tight ends on his teams. If Engram can't fit in, it raises serious questions about whether he still has what it takes to play at a high level in the NFL. or if time has finally caught up with him. But let me tell you something, Broncos Country. I'm still not throwing in the towel on Engram. I still think the guy can flip the switch, can start producing, can justify that investment. The season is still early. There's a lot of time for him to redeem himself. But the clock is ticking. The fans' patience is running out, and he needs to wake up soon. The game against the Eagles is a perfect opportunity, Broncos Country. Their defense is good, but it has gaps. If Payton designs the right plays, if Bo Nix makes the proper reads, Engram could have his breakout game. It could be the game where he finally shows why Denver bet on him. But that will only happen if everyone does their part. The coach creating opportunities, the quarterback finding him on routes, and Engram himself executing when the ball comes. And look at this interesting situation. Broncos Country, there are players who take a while to get going in the season and then explode. It's not uncommon in the NFL. Sometimes a guy needs a few weeks to get into rhythm, to understand the system, to develop chemistry with the quarterback. Maybe that's what's happening with Engram. Maybe in a few weeks we'll be talking about him as one of the team's positive surprises. But there's also the opposite scenario, Broncos Country, and we need to be prepared for it. The scenario where Engram simply can't perform, where injuries continue to interfere, where age and physical wear take their toll. In that case, Denver will have to find alternative solutions. We'll have to adjust the system. We'll have to distribute his targets to other players. And honestly, Broncos Country, I think the next 3 or 4 weeks will define everything about Engram in Denver. Either he wakes up and starts producing, or it becomes clear that the investment was a mistake, and the team will need to think about changes for next season. That's how the NFL works. You have a short window to prove your worth, and if you don't take advantage of it, you're quickly replaced. Comment down there. Broncos Country, do you think Engram will be able to turn things around, or do you think he's done and Denver should be looking for alternatives? I want to know your honest opinion about this. And don't forget to give that awesome like on the video if you're enjoying this content. One thing I need to mention, Broncos Country, is that Sean Payton isn't a coach to mess around. If he's talking publicly about Engram, even diplomatically, it's because internally the pressure must be much higher. Coaches normally protect players in the media, so when they start making comments like this, it usually means patience is running thin. And thinking long-term Broncos Country, this 2-year Engram contract could become a problem if he doesn't improve. Denver doesn't have infinite money to waste on players who don't produce. Every dollar counts, especially when you have other positions that need to be reinforced. If Engram doesn't justify the investment, it'll be hard for the front office to explain that to the fans. But let's look at the positive side too, Broncos Country, because not everything is doom and gloom. Denver's offense as a whole is showing signs of improvement. Bo Nix is growing every week, the ground game is working better, and Courtland Sutton continues being a constant threat. If they can add consistent production from Engram into this mix, the offense could really take off. And there's an interesting statistic I want to share with you. Broncos Country, teams that have productive tight ends generally go further in the playoffs. It's too versatile a position that helps in both the passing and running game that creates impossible mismatches for defenses to solve. If Engram can get back to the level he's demonstrated on other teams, Denver gains a completely new dimension on offense. So that's it. Broncos Country. Engram's situation is complicated, frustrating, but not yet desperate. The guy has talent, has experience, has the necessary physical tools. What's missing is health, rhythm, and a little luck. The coming weeks will reveal whether he can turn things around or if he'll join the list of disappointing Denver signings. And no matter what happens, Broncos Country will be here covering everything, analyzing every play, every statement, every team move. Because that's what family does. Follows together, suffers together, celebrates together. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Leave that like to strengthen it, and comment down below your opinion about everything we discussed today. Sunday, there's more war ahead, Broncos Country. Denver goes to Philadelphia to face the Eagles, and you can be sure all eyes will be on Evan Engram. Will it be his turnaround game? Will Sean Payton finally unlock the guy's potential? Or will we have another week of disappointment? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. We will be here following every second of this journey. Broncos Country, you guys are awesome. Thanks for staying until the end of this complete breakdown about Evan Engram's situation. Don't forget to share this content with other Broncos fans, because the more people debating, the stronger our community gets. And prepare your heart, because NFL season is this: emotion, frustration, hope, all mixed in an insane cauldron of feelings. Until next time, family, let's go Broncos.